Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast.
Where we share games.
We do share games here. I'm your host, Tyler.
And I am Zach.
Yes, we are here to share a bunch of horror games this year, as is now made tradition. We love horror games here at Unpatched. Zach and I just have an endless list going of so many games we want to play. And this episode is a bit of a mismatch, a mashup. We were only going to play Evil Within 2 this time around, and then the next, Evil Within 2 first. Then we were going to move on to Ghostwire Tokyo, both from Tango Gameworks.
And we will tell you why we decided to do what we did. I think we should lead up to it, though. Give a little build.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think it'll we don't want to show our hand too early, you know?
Sure. But I do want to share this beer right now.
It's like meeting a woman and saying, I'm going to marry you. It's like, now you never will.
Correct. Correct. All right. So, being October, we both love malty beers, and it's a great time for malty beers like Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
Good Marzen style lagers. We have the Oktoberfest Marzen here from Einger Breweries. This is brewed
not to be confused with Sadness Breweries.
This is brewed according to the Reinheitsgebot.
Tyler's actually Bavarian. I don't know if you knew this.
I can't say this word. Purity laws of 1516. It says here, though,
that means it's extra virgin.
I don't know about this here. Einger, at the foot of the Bavarian Alps, is one of the world's most respected breweries. Family owned and operated since 1878. I've literally never heard of you guys, so...
There's a little asterisk that says, there's just, that's what the old man who visits us every day and gets drunk says.
Yeah.
I've been here a million times. It's the best in the whole world.
I did have this last night.
Wow. Wait, told the girl you're going to marry her. You just couldn't...
But I'm excited for you to try it. It's so smooth.
Best in the world.
I don't know. I don't know about that. It's very good though.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm gonna put it in my mouth hole now. Okay. I like that stench. It's
stench.
No, it's good. It smells good. Yeah. I mean, it smells pretty standard for an Oktoberfest, but I think that it has a little bit more. I don't know, a little more body to it. Than I'm used to, I guess. They can be pretty thin sometimes. I had Live Oaks.
This is pretty thin.
I was going to say, I've had Live Oaks. I had Live Oaks again just yesterday.
I don't think I've ever had Live Oaks.
That seems to be most Austinites' favorite Oktoberfest, and I think it's par.
I got a little more here for you.
Awesome. Pour it on up. Pour it on up.
We should have that. I don't think we have 4. We only have 3. So let's have theirs. I mean, they're an institution here in Austin.
Oh yeah, one of the oldest in Austin.
Yeah, and a great place.
That's got a lot of flavor.
Yeah, but
I was surprised.
It is. What is it? You said thin a few minutes ago.
Yeah, it can. I think most Oktoberfests are pretty thin, right?
Yeah,
that's pretty standard.
Yeah, I mean it is a lager, very malty lager though. I like this one quite a bit. Yeah, like you said, lots of flavor. I couldn't really put, name any of the notes.
Dark chocolate for sure.
Interesting.
Like
I just had a bunch of dark chocolate. I had like 3 pieces of dark chocolate 5 minutes ago. So actually, I don't think that would be fair for me to agree with.
Oh, definitely dark chocolate.
But yeah,
for me, it just tastes like toilet water. I'm just kidding. My dogs are drinking out of the toilet a lot lately, so
I think it's very good. Oh yeah, you hear that from like 4 miles away.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Could you imagine just all humans were that loud when they drank water? Hey, sorry, I just need a quick glass of water.
Stop this immediately! Don't you know people will be listening to this? They'll hear it in their ears.
Yeah, but at least one person's gonna replay it over and over again and start to feel really, really good.
Well, I'm happy we could offer that service for you.
Yeah, we could lift up the tent pole of your day.
God, oh,
So hey, we're gonna play some horror games. No, we did.
We did. Now again, I talked about this last episode. I for the time being will not be finishing most games, so I put about 5 hours into each of these. A little more into Evil Within 2. I think I put 7 or
you made a good dent into the beginning, well past the beginning of that game.
Oh yeah, definitely. I had many things unlocked. I had a very good feel for each of the games. The least of which being the one that I want to finish most is Evil Within 1.
Yeah.
I put the least time in that, just over 5 hours.
Because we weren't planning on playing Evil Within 1 at all.
No.
So I played it last year. I actually brought it up briefly on an episode. Okay. We can go back and hear some of my concerns, the things that I was looking forward to in Evil Within 2. And as I finished Evil Within 2, and you were kind of like, okay, where's this game going? Like, when is it going to start being the game that all the people we like to listen to are talking about? When is it going to start firing like that? And, and I told you it doesn't. This is the game. It shows its whole hand by the end of chapter 3 and 4,
Yeah.
And so, you were pretty disappointed. And so I said, what you need to do is go back and play Evil Within 1. This game gave me a whole new appreciation for what Evil Within 1 is doing.
Yeah, that was already the plan. It was in the mail arriving the day you told me that because, I skipped it last year. You didn't.
I just kind of played it on a whim.
Yeah.
I just downloaded. I was house sitting at my parents, for my parents, and I brought my PS4 over to their house, and I was like, Amanda, what do you want to play? She's like, I really don't care. I'm like, okay, I want to play Evil Within. So I just downloaded it digital and just played it.
Yeah, it was very good. What I played was very good. Now, rough around the edges, very rough around the edges.
It has a lot of pretty glaring problems.
However,
a lot's a strong word.
All of it is more interesting than either of their 2 follow-ups.
Yes.
And I do want to talk about the studio in general. I think towards the end, which do we want to start with? I kind of think maybe Ghostwire.
You want to go back in time to a better day?
No, because I just played it today.
No, I mean go backtrack through the games. Let me at least kind of frame that. The reason that it gave me a new appreciation, and I told Tyler that we should add it to the episode, or he recommended we add it to the episode, and I was fully on board, was it's doing something so much more interesting than
Evil Within 1.
Than Evil Within 2. So when I finished Evil Within 1, I was like, oh man, I know people like 2 better. The majority of people like 2 better, it seems. These have been technical difficulties. Now returning to your regularly scheduled program. Okay, I'm going to back up.
Yeah.
So, when we look at these games, Evil Within 1, I finished it, and I had plenty of issues. You can go back to last year. We'll try to remember which episode is on and tag it in the description.
Oh, I will not be. I have no idea.
Okay, I might dig through it. But I give a pretty brief overview. A lot of stuff I like. I compare it favorably to The Last of Us 1. It's doing a lot of those things. But I think in a more immersive way, a less gamey way in more gamey in some, less in others.
The UI is some of the most gamey you'll see.
And the traps are very gamey.
Yeah, it's just a giant lever on the wall blinking.
Yeah.
It's pretty gamey.
It's a little bit more a little bit less. It'd be more like playing Last of Us on higher difficulties. Is what it would be like, because you have to be a little bit more intentional with conservation and thought. And it's a hard game. It gets really hard.
I was having a hard time with it.
Yeah, it's much harder. And I played Evil Within 2 on Nightmare because, and we'll talk about this later, there's a difficulty problem in Evil Within 2. But I was so excited to play 2 because everybody seems to like 2 more. At least everybody that I, typically listen to and follow and respect and stuff, they tend to like 2 more. I think
it's talked about pretty favorably.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, they took these good ideas, they stripped out the stuff that didn't work, and they really doubled down on some of these really innovative, interesting ideas that we'll get into a little later. And that is literally the opposite of what they did. They sanded it down, and they made it really streamlined and really accessible. They didn't leave any of the most interesting ideas, and they kind of pulled it back towards a standard third-person survival horror experience. They do a couple interesting things still, but none of the really interesting stuff from Evil Within 1 is there at all anymore. And it gave me a new appreciation for the first game, for sure.
You know, there's one mechanic in there that I really appreciated. This is something small, akin to the map wheel in Batman that I've preached about for a little while. The communicator that you have, you can pick up the different wavelengths and, you know, find people just off in the distance, and it acts as sort of a compass, but also a mini-map waypoint sort of situation. I just think it's integrated super well. I liked looking at it. And yeah, I hadn't seen a waypoint system integrated quite like that, and I think it worked very well. And something similar, I think, would benefit quite a few games. I appreciated that, the contextualization of the waypoint marker.
Interesting.
In this game.
Yeah, that's a
which I hate. I hate waypoint markers.
Yeah, I do as well.
For the most part, actually. In Tokyo, I was pressed for time, so maybe it would be different if I weren't. But
that's why you got to play the Sly Cooper games.
It's so dense that it feels really difficult unless you live there, unless you can make your way around pretty well. It feels really a little too dense for me to just explore freely and find what they want me to look for.
I think Sly Cooper, Sly 2 and Sly 3 have very well-designed open areas because they're situated around, like, because you can get really deep and, like, stuck in alleys and stuff, and, you're sneaking around and strong word, you're platforming around. Yeah. And everything is kind of marked by these large, visible from most vantage points. Like, if you just kind of get out of the alley and hop on a roof somewhere, you can see, like, 3 or 4 major landmarks. And
now, are they landmarks or just like shafts of light?
No, landmarks. Like, this is the massive neon sign. This is the boat dock. This is the, like, things that are large and visible that, as you do your missions, those are waypoints that Bentley will send to you. It's like, hey, head towards the boat dock, head towards this, and you learn the map based on these large landmarks.
Yeah, I like that.
Me too, and that's Breath of the Wild, of course. All these things. It's definitely more engaging for the player to be able to develop a map themselves. Something that I hugely respect in Deadly Premonition, which we won't talk about right now, but I am having a great time.
We'll talk about it soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to make it a full episode, but you'll definitely be talking about it by the end of this month.
I will.
In some capacity.
So much to talk about.
Yeah, we've got one episode to fill now since we're merging these two, but we'll figure that out. I look forward to playing it, but we are talking about these ones.
You will love it.
These ones.
Yes, so we've wandered around it for a little while. You said you want to start with Ghostwire. Take us away.
Yeah, so there's not going to be much to say here. We will use it to contextualize a few things we'll say later, but about the game itself, there isn't much to say for the two of us. Yes.
Smooth.
Indeed. It's and not a horror game. You said it has horror trappings. It is, as she says, spooky.
Yeah, correct.
Which is that's it. Yeah, it's got some spooky things in it, but it is definitely not a horror game. It's
it's showing up to a decorated Halloween house.
Yeah. It's a first-person shooter, a light first-person shooter. You're not using guns, ducking around corners and stuff like that, but you have 3 different moves that you unlock pretty early on in the game.
Very fast, yeah.
I played just over 5 hours, and I had the 3 different elements and 2 of the talismans, and of course you get you do get a bow and arrow to use occasionally.
Yeah, I don't really use it. The arrows are expensive.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive. But I mean, money is so easy to come by.
Yeah, it's very
so
weird.
It's a pretty bog standard open world.
It's a cool open world. The streets of Tokyo, or the streets of Tokyo, and it's
the
Shibuya. Shibuya, yeah. Shibuya
reminded
district.
me actually a lot of what I remember. Now, please.
Grains of salt abound.
What I remember appreciating about the what is the second Batman game? Arkham City.
Boo! No, I was kidding. I'm just kidding.
It reminds me of that open world. Super dense, super vertical, not super large, but there's a ton of stuff to do in it, and that stuff is fun but repetitive. Like I didn't do many different things.
The open world checkbox problem.
Yes, it's doing
if you do
all
these
of that.
checkboxes, you'll get money, and if you do these ones, you'll get experience. Checkboxes.
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty much it. Now I played all of Evil Within 2. I toggled it off and on a bit, but I played the majority of my playthrough in first person mode. I'm one who likes to go into the settings and see what's there before I start the game, especially on recent games. They tend to afford players way more options than we used to get. So I saw that there was a first person mode. I did that after walking around for just a minute and thought he felt a little clunky, and it does not feel that way. Like, he runs weird, he walks weird, he just looks weird to me. In first person mode, just everything looked so good in that game. I mean,
Sebastian Castellanos is such a great name for a protagonist.
Yes.
Like, what a protagonist name. Like, if you were to tell me your name is Sebastian Castellanos, I'm like, I'm going to follow you around. Something interesting is going to happen to you. You're going to face a Dark Lord or something. Like, you're just...
Yeah, pretty much. However, he's not that interesting. He is generic father, dad, savior guy.
Jason!
Pretty much.
Jason!
We've seen him a million times. He's not interesting.
I do think that when they dig into his trauma, he gets interesting.
Okay.
When you start touching on the trauma of Beacon Mental Hospital.
Yeah, those moments are interesting.
Yeah, he gets a little bit better because the
general attributes that just make up his character, though, we've seen a million times.
Yeah.
Interesting things do happen.
Yeah,
I don't mean that.
I do like his trauma. You kind of have these flashback moments. You have to run away from this ghost.
I like people's trauma, too.
Terrible sections where you have to run away from this ghost, but... overall terrible sections. There's one good one at the beginning, but he actually, if you do all these little side quests, he accepts that he is not still in the in Beacon Hospital. Like, he literally, part of himself has not accepted that he is somehow not still in Beacon, and this is all a simulation still. And so
it's simulationception.
Yeah, he's having to accept that, no, this is real now. Like, that I am...
He did leave Beacon, was in normal life, then went back into a simulation.
Yeah, back into the simulation. So it's a really good... Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Talking about Sebastian. He felt clunky to control.
That's right. So I played it in first person, and it felt very, very good to play in first person. I appreciated that a lot. And the things that made it feel good, the sort of sneaking around, the recontextualization of a pretty traditional survival horror game, a traditional Japanese survival horror game, recontextualizing that into a first person scenario felt really good and natural.
I was very surprised. I kind of laughed at you when you decided to play it like that, and then I did turn it on, and I was like, oh, this works way better than I thought it was going to.
Yes.
Like, it...
The only thing that feels weird is that the crates are so big. And
that is what's got to be weird.
That's really the only thing. I was like,
well, it's okay, because when you play Deadly Premonition, every crate takes 8 bullets to break open. So,
can't you just...
because everything has durability. So if you just waste all your like pipes and stuff on them, you're wasting a pipe. Which
that sounds like a good game to me.
I've literally stopped opening boxes. Thankfully, it's not a hard game at all. But okay. I literally stopped opening boxes.
We will talk about that game though. However, Ghostwire Tokyo doesn't have any of that. To the same degree that they removed the interesting things from Evil Within 1 to 2, they have removed just as much interesting attributes from Evil Within to Ghostwire, which is fine. You know, a studio does not have to keep making the same
pushing
game.
the envelope.
Yeah, this is what they want to do. I think they're going to be. Ghostwire Tokyo is very much to you and me like whatever Arcane's last game was. What the heck was it called?
Freaking Deathloop.
Deathloop.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's sterile. It is for the masses,
Steril's a great
which
word.
is fine. It's super cool. Okay, this game is, you know.
Oh, dude, just the way your
J-pop
talismans...
edgelord to the nth degree, and it's cool. Okay,
yeah. And dude, just like the like you said, the particle effects, the animations, you using the strings to rip out the soul.
Yeah,
of the
the finger animations are so good in this game.
Probably, honestly, the best first-person finger animations I've ever seen. Like, if I'm really being honest.
Yes, a lot of work was put into that finger work. Let me tell you.
And you got to, you know what I'm saying? But the talismans, the way they waft gently in the breeze.
Yes.
It's just so satisfying.
It's all
and
very cool.
He's so snappy. Like, he throws things out. He's so snappy.
Very cool.
So
it's fun to play. And I think many people will enjoy it. But it is not what I thought it was going to be. And, the two of us don't watch a ton of trailers. And maybe it's totally my fault. Maybe the game did not sell it as a horror game in the way the other two games from their catalog are. This is not. Okay? It's fun. I think many people will enjoy it. It is a small, tightly wound open world.
And thank God it's short. It's a short game.
How long is it?
It's barely over 10 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was like 19 or something.
Oh, it maybe. I'll check. But I feel like it's like 13 hours. Like, it's very short.
I'm like almost halfway there. It's cool enough to kind of want to finish on if it's that short.
When I got to the point in the story where they took away my powers and I have to go and do something, I'm like, no.
Did you do any more after that?
No, I was like, no.
That was like 5 minutes. They you rescue him in about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, all right. I forget the character's name. The human character saves the spirit. Oh, spoilers for all these games, of course. And he's like, oh, I'm here to rescue you. And the spirit's like, don't. You're not here to rescue me. You need me. So you're going to let me take control now? And you let him take control. And you're very powerful now. You get this new ability that I forget. It's called wiring in, where you're both totally in sync. There's this huge burst that comes out to stun a bunch of enemies. All of your health and ammo are immediately refilled. You deal more damage, and you take the spirits quicker for a short amount of time. But you're very powerful.
I
thought they were going to have you trek all the way back. But
that's what I thought was going to happen. I was like, no, I'm good. And the boss fight before is so lame. Like, most fights, I'm not thinking about which power to use. Maybe every once in a while, but usually I'm just throwing stuff out, whatever I have equipped. And
no, I had a little more fun with it. I was thinking about what to do and, balancing, dealing this much damage to this group of enemies, getting them right on the edge. So let me, talk about what you're doing. There's this fog that has come over Shibuya, and everyone has died. Their bodies have disappeared, and right as yours is disappearing, a spirit who is maybe some government agent or something. He's been doing this sort of Ghostwire work for a long time, but he's floating around frantically looking for a body and grabs yours before yours disappears. So now there are two spirits living in your body and fighting for control of it. And eventually you sort of come to terms with that, and the two of you work together, and you've got a bunch of these ethereal abilities. You can harness different elements to shoot from your fingertips. As you deal enough damage to someone, you can steal their soul. And then, again, all the bodies have disappeared, sort of a rapture situation. But you can find spirits throughout the world and capture them to give them to some secret government agent to then put back into bodies. I don't know. It's weird. But they like doing stuff like this. So the previous two games were working with technology and the psyche, and this is working with the spirit and technology, and that just seems to be a thing with them. These ephemeral attributes of humanity mixed with technology. Ephemeral, I think, is the wrong word.
Yeah, but it's ethereal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just seems to be, their shtick. They like that a lot.
And they're good at it. I like the STEM system from Evil Within. The little bathtubs all synced up to like the central neural network thing.
Yeah.
Just a really cool idea.
And here
Oh man, especially in Evil Within 1, which I had no idea what was going on. And I didn't even know I was in like this system. Like I didn't know until like literally the end of the game. And you keep coming into these rooms that are just bathtubs in a circle around like a center pole. You're like, what is it? What? And you keep running into these rooms. Some of them are like connected multiple times. You're like, what is this room? Why are there bathtubs everywhere? It's really weird.
It's pretty cool.
But I was like, I really they landed it for me.
Yeah.
With that moment. Yeah.
So here in Ghostwire, you have these abilities. It's a bunch of finger tutting stuff. It's cool to look at. But it's a pretty
water, earth, fire.
no earth, yeah, unfortunately. Fire, air, water, and then some talismans to. Did you get the talisman?
Yeah.
The second talisman?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, no, second maybe.
Yeah. So
no.
The second one,
I got the stun one.
You get right after you lose your abilities, and I only played just after this. But anyway, it is the shrub talisman. And you summon bushes that you can sneak through. Just giant bushes you throw in the middle of the street, and then
I just wish I could do that in life.
Yeah.
Some bushes.
So back to the combat. I had more fun with it because with these abilities, each of the three different elements do something very different.
And they all have an alt fire.
Yeah, correct. They have a charge ability, and as you hit the enemies, when you get them about 2/3 of the way. To the end of their health, they're stunned, and you can, if you have a moment to spare, you can pull their souls from them. But if you can, and they're stunned for, let's say, 5 seconds, maybe a little more.
Depends on how much you've upgraded their stun duration. And
stuff. You get experience points. There's some RPG elements. It's a modern open world game.
Skill trees.
Yes. So if you line up. Or not really line up, but if you can manage to get a few enemies right on the edge, it's very clear when they're going to be stunned. So, like, if you can manage to get a few enemies to just one more hit, then you land that last hit on each of them, you can take all of their souls at once. And then you can upgrade different abilities to get bonuses when you take a soul, like healing health, getting more ammo. And so if you do that, you're just getting huge bonuses. Managing that was fun. I don't think it was as boring as Zach does, but it wasn't much more than that. It's fun. It's not really a horror game. I don't think we're going to spend much more time on it.
Yeah. I
think a lot of you would like
the enemy variety is not particularly interesting. Even though like there's one enemy type that I treated differently, but like most enemy types, even though they have slight variations, I ended up treating mostly the same.
Yeah. So in the first 5 hours, that's all we played. There was not.
And, you had a boss, and I was literally just unloading on the boss, countering, unloading.
Yeah, the boss was super lame.
Yeah, it was really lackluster. So, not a lot to love here for me, particularly. Again, the animations are incredible, and then the open world felt very unique.
Yeah, it's a pretty good place to be in. I like that. So, not quite for us, but it's there for a lot of people, and I think we were.
It's definitely under received. It seems I got it for $30. Like brand new.
Whatever Arcane's game last game was. We're in the minority. I think a lot of people will enjoy their 10 to 15 hours with this. It ticks a lot of boxes and is cool. You're not going to see much like it.
I am. I have a long form piece I want to do one day about stealth games.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting genre. It's a lot of cool stuff to talk about there. not like the history of stealth, like just me talking about like why this is engaging to me. But one game that I have held aloft, ready and waiting to be one of my all-time favorites, all the more now because of what Deathloop was, is Dishonored 2. Like, I know, I'm just gonna eat that game up.
We definitely got to play it for the cast, dude.
It looks so
it's high
good
on my list as well. But
I played Dishonored 1 twice. Like it has its issues, but
1.5 times.
Like it's really fun and so creative. You can go online and see people doing some crazy stuff. So
really interesting high level play.
Yeah, it's good stuff. But
it is indeed.
Yeah, let's move backwards, I guess, through time. Sorry,
sure. Evil Within 2. Why don't you take it away, Zach?
Yeah, so both of us were looking forward to this game very much. Both of us were disappointed, but not... I guess underwhelmed, but not super disappointed. Like, I think that somehow this game is better than the sum of its parts. I think that I'm going to bring up a couple things that stood out to me when compared. So if you go back and listen to what I had to say about Evil Within 1, here's some stuff that I did like better in this game that I think it did improve on. I think the enemy and boss design is way better because it's really bare bones and the bosses are just bullet sponges, period. Some of them are like that in Evil Within 2, but at least the arenas are interesting and stuff. I only remember vividly like one boss from Evil Within 1, except for the final boss, which was terrible.
Okay.
So the boss design's way better. The way the enemies look is more interesting, and that's not even saying much. Like, none of them are super interesting.
Wait, the way the bosses look in Evil Within 2 are more interesting?
Yeah, Evil Within 1 bosses are really uninteresting for the most part. Like, they have the safe head guys and stuff, and I did like the fire thing, whatever, that one. But just really the boss design is a little more interesting here. The humanoid bosses, stuff like that. But all that to say, the enemy design overall, I think, is about the same. You have interesting ones from both. I like the tone and the visual style better in 1.
Definitely.
So that lens there. But if you exclude that, I think that overall the design
is much more detail. It's so gritty.
It's gritty. It's gross. I put grimy. Like, it's grimy. Like, it's so good. It does not drag. So that is one thing Evil Within 1 that keeps me from going back to it, is it is too long. The end really drags in that game. And the end, it sucks, because the end has some of the best level design. Like, in the whole game, it has the whole construction site, like, really great levels. But you've just been playing it for so long. Like, I feel like if I were to go back, I'd play it like one episode a day or something. Like, just really meter it out and try not to get burnt out on it. Because it's Evil Within 2, I literally picked up and played every free moment I had. Like, it is really tightly paced, fun the whole way through. I had no complaints. Like,
so I was definitely let down. I thought it was going to be, this grimy sort of setting like the first one, and just the way people have talked about it, it sounded like it was going to look and feel way more interesting than it was, and it was not. However, it certainly was not bad. I did have a fun time. I mentioned I played that one the most, about 7 hours, I think. I had a fun time that entire time, and I was only exploring a small area. But as you start to progress the narrative, that area unfolds a little more to you, and enemies start spawning in different places, different kinds of enemies, and it's cool to be there.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good game that I enjoyed playing. It was just a little let down. That's all.
Yeah. And the big selling point of this game when compared to the first game is the open levels. So there are 2 areas that are basically wide open, a couple blocks of this town union. 2 separate areas with a lot to explore. Very rewarding exploration. It'll give you a new gun, a new trinket, a new something interesting to work with. Honestly, it rewards you well. Really good little scares scattered here and there. It's definitely the highlight of the whole game. just really digging into these open areas.
The sort of you said they're little vignettes. You walk into a house and you're triggered, your PTSD is triggered, and you go into one of these, these moments exploring his trauma. Those are the best parts.
Oh yeah.
Or just, finding a new sort of enemy that you have to work with, and the lights are flickering and stuff like that, and this one house that is not part of the main story. You don't have to go there. Some players may never go there, but you just walk in and it's this new sort of haunted funhouse, and I like those moments by far the best.
Yeah. I think that the open areas are undermined by two things. So number one, this may be just me. Take it as a grain of salt. This is my experience, though. I think the difficulty balancing is absolutely atrocious in this game. The first game is hard, but rewarding, and it feels appropriate, and it never gets too oppressive. So in this game, the medium difficulty, normal difficulty, is an absolute joke. I never there was one part in particular that was like Nightmare's too hard, so I went back down. So in Nightmare, you get to this, it's one of the only rooms that resembles Evil Within 1, and it's nowhere near as good, but you kind of have this little staircase you can run up and then drop down from to kind of help evade the zombies. And you come down and you have to wait. You start this door mechanism from unlocking, and some zombies come in that you have to deal with. That you have to shoot. On the normal so I was playing on Nightmare. There are, I think, 4 or 5 bodies scattered throughout the room that will wake up along with the waves. So you have to take them out before they get up, if you want to be careful about it. The first wave is 2 zombies immediately followed by 2 or 3 more. Then the next wave is like 5 or 6 zombies. The last wave is one of the really difficult, the skinny wailing women with the knives.
Oh, is this? I think I know exactly where this is. This is in the
the Marrow.
It's in the Marrow as you go into the 4th chapter.
Yeah. So what is that? We're at about almost 20 enemies, right? Almost 20. I was like, this is brutal. I'm wasting all my ammo. This is awful. Is the only time I had to use my brain to really get through any of these situations, setting traps in the right places, knowing where the zombies are going to come from, really thinking it out, making me feel like I'm playing the first game again, just using traps in your brain. So then I was like, okay, this is too hard. I'm going to drop the difficulty. So I dropped the difficulty. There are a total of 6 enemies. 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think 7's right.
Yeah, 6 or 7, including the one at the end. And I was like, you are kidding me. From nearly 20 to 7? What is that? I killed all of them in way fast because they take way less damage.
Yeah.
So I killed them all. So there's a huge... And then the problem, too, with Nightmare is by the end, you're so loaded up because the dominant strategy in this game is just stealth. And the enemy AI is so dumb in this game. They will lose sight of you when you're in sight.
Yeah.
They are so dumb. And there's a really strong enemy near the end of the game that is kind of... It's a boss enemy at one point and then becomes a normal enemy where it's this wrapped up guy with this gas mask on shooting a flamethrower. And there's 4 or 5 of them out in the open area. You're like, but if you kill them, you get their flame tanks, you can make a flamethrower for yourself. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's go, boys. So instead of fighting them head on, I do the dominant strategy, stab him in the back, run around the building, wait for him to lose sight of me, stab him in the back. Takes 5 times. It's super boring. I did not have a fun time doing this, but you better believe I didn't waste bullets on him because bullets are scarce. So
I guess in Nightmare they are, but I was fully loaded with all resources all the time.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, I was scarce and I was stealth killing everything because and unfortunately that's a very uninteresting strategy to stealth kill constantly.
Stealth is pretty rough. I think stealth is way better in first person because you're locked into, you can look around things. You know how third person works. You can finagle the camera to see way more than you should be allowed to see. And you can't do that in first person. So stealth is a little more tense, more rewarding. And I stealth killed plenty, but I also didn't have to.
It's more fun to shoot things or to use your crossbow to set a mine why would I do that if I can just throw a bottle and stealth kill everything in the room and not waste ammo because I need it, Like, I think a more healthy balance where I had the ammo I needed so that I could just mow down some enemies every once in a while because it's more fun. So the game has that problem. The first game, there's some stealth, but it's really only the very beginning of the game. It kind of just gets going. It's like, okay, you got your bullets now. Let's get going. Like let's move around. It knows that its trap rooms and its stuff is way more interesting. It knows that, and so it goes for that. So I had issues there. I think it kind of made some of the open areas less interesting, but it also made it more interesting in some parts. I didn't go down certain areas. I didn't go and help certain people who needed it because I didn't have the resources for it.
Yeah.
So that's good. Another huge issue that I think that grows out of that is healing. Because the checkpoints are pretty generous, I literally wouldn't heal. I would just die and start the checkpoint again because why would I waste a healing item?
Yeah. Again, fully stocked all the time. I never had a problem with that.
Yeah, and so I think that's even more emblematic of the difficulty problem, right? Like, because either you have everything you need, or I have so little, why am I going to waste this healing myself when I can just checkpoint? Even if it's like, 10 minutes, I'll do another 10 minutes to not waste my 2 healing items that I have, And to be fair, I had so much healing, like, crafting material. Mm-hmm. But again, I was like, why should I bother making this if I can just do a checkpoint? Why would I waste this and maybe need it later and just do this? It's not an issue,
Yeah. It's rough, man. It's rough. It's not a well-balanced game at any point. I can't imagine what the easy difficulty is like.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure it's story. Give me the story or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all that to say, I do think that, I've really, really hampered on this game. But I liked a lot of it. There's some really interesting set pieces. There's some really interesting like the open roaming around, the giant chainsaw multi-faced woman beast thing. They just start roaming around, and you have to like God forbid you try to fight them. You know what I mean? You just have to move around them stealthily, and little surprises around every corner. And again, I just didn't stop playing. I was having fun just moving through and fighting things.
Yeah, I agree. It is fun. Just there's things that... Oh, and the general enemy design. Just the general zombie. Super boring.
Oh, yeah.
Just the most bog standard zombie you've ever seen. The kill animations are all terrible. Just so generic. But despite all that, it's a fun loop.
Yeah, again, though, in Deadly Premonition, when you get grabbed by the enemy zombies, they literally grab your face and shove their hand in your mouth and start, like, I don't know what they're trying to do, but their whole hand is in your mouth. So, if you want something not generic, there you go, bud.
Heard. Deadly Premonition.
I'm going to keep bringing it up. It's third person. A horror. What? No, Anyway, that's my take on Evil Within 2. There is, of course, I can't neglect talking about the stellar ending sequence. Absolutely fantastic ending sequence. It's hampered a bit by playing as Nicole, I think her name is, in the real world, fighting one of the most, so that CEO evil guy.
Okay.
I don't know, the way he was animated, I was just mesmerized by his face, and I'm like, this guy is how I picture evil CEOs across the world. His smile, I was like, this is sitting really close to home in a weird way. But so you have to play as her, and it kind of sucks. It's some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard in my life. It made me laugh out loud. Really bad dialogue. But when you're in the system, this whole ending sequence is fantastic. You come out, the whole place has been covered in sand, it's just totally demolished. This gorgeous, somber, sad music comes in that is not used anywhere else, except at the very beginning of the game. It's very lightly played when you first load into STEM. And it's just going full of force as you're climbing this sand dune, going through all your past memories, watching your wife devolve into insanity. It's just really well done. And then you fight the seaman wife, just the giant milky, like it's very, very weird. But yeah, it's a great boss fight. It's very Resident Evil, great final boss fight.
Cool. Cool.
Really fun. I literally spent everything to just, go in with full ammo, and I still barely made it out with any ammo, like it was a good time. It was a good time. So a lot to love here. It's a game I would recommend to a lot of people, actually.
Yeah, both this and Tokyo. I'd recommend to plenty of people.
Evil Within 1, though, is not one I'd recommend to a bunch of people.
No, it is a rough game.
Yeah, lots of... The opening is not the best. The weird little stealth section with the chainsaw man.
Yeah, I didn't have
it's
too
inoffensive,
much of a problem.
but it's...
too much of a problem.
It's inoffensive, but it's not strong. It feels like I'm playing Outlast. Like, it's really... It wasn't particularly great, but then it gets right away. Like, when you get to the village... Mm-hmm. You just start going, and the lighthouse beacon always in the back, always there. Yeah. So let's talk about it. Go. Like, what did you get? I guess booting this up after playing Evil Within 2.
So this is the one I played the least.
But still,
unfortunately, this is the one. But this is the one I want to go back and play the most. Though being the longest, I will probably have the least time to go back and play it. Unfortunately. So I didn't really think the stealth section was very bad. I didn't think it took away from the opening because it is so inoffensive. And they're not doing that all the time. It would be worse if they were just doing that all the time. So I honestly didn't even think about it. I thought it was a pretty darn good opening. The weird... Honestly, what I imagine Deadly Premonition to look like, but I'm sure Deadly Premonition looks way, way worse. I
don't know what you're talking about.
I haven't played Deadly Premonition yet. But this, like, all gray and brown real world. Real world, as you go to this hospital, you and two other cops go to this hospital, and then suddenly just bizarre things start happening. For no apparent reason. The world is splitting open, and then you wake up in, like a Saw chamber, like something from the Saw movies.
And it's just like brown, red blood. You know what I mean?
Everywhere. It's dripping, it's wet. Every sound is moist.
Crusty
and moist at the same time.
Yeah, it's just gross.
It's very well done. I liked it quite a bit. And then, going into the village and learning the traps, learning the match mechanic. I did like that a lot.
I love the matches.
It's all...
And you can, if you're smart, you can burn a dead body right as another guy is coming on top of it to kill a zombie with a match, or have, try to kill them all in one place so that you can burn multiple with one match. Like, using your matches conservatively.
Yeah.
And the game is difficult enough to encourage you to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Good. I liked it a lot. I didn't get too much further than the village. The next chapter...
It's a great take on what the game has to offer.
Yeah.
It really is.
Maybe I'll have more time to play it. That depends on what we choose to fill this extra episode with. We'll see. But... I didn't get too much further than that. A really, really strong first impression, and just that's what I was looking for. This setting, the level of grunge here is so palpable.
And just weird things start happening. Like I had no idea that I was in this crazy STEM device, this linked consciousness.
Yeah, I wish I didn't know that. Because,
man, you start like falling. Like there's so many scenes of him falling like sideways into stuff and like on his back. It's like really weird and just perspective shifting things as you walk into Majula. Like, I don't know, there's this weird sunset that looks like Majula from Dark Souls 2, and I don't know why. But you start walking in these places like, why am I here? What is going on? The world is literally falling apart. There's a giant Spider-Man facing, like, I don't know what's happening right now, And again, walking in these bathtub rooms and just not knowing what's going on and letting that kind of fall on you as the player.
Yeah.
Instead of like showing their hands so early, which I'm sure they did in the trailers, but showing their hands so early and being like, hey, this is all a simulation and you're stuck here. You need to get out. Like, and literally leaving you just floundering going, why? What is happening? Like, what is going on? Am I insane? Is this real? Maybe. I don't know. It's really satisfying.
Yeah, I wish I didn't know that going in, because you see a lot of stuff start pointing in that direction. So on a second playthrough, I think you would.
I'm sure.
You would pick up a lot.
I'm sure. Yeah, there's some good stuff. There's a couple just to remember from last year. So again, the game drags. It does not have as good pacing as the second game. It's a little bit too long. The antagonist of the game, there are these sections where he'll be like walking after you and can kill you in one hit that are very trial and error, and made me want to gouge my eyes out. The horrible decisions.
Is there a point? So, if I do pick this game up again, just based on our time this month, when should I lower the difficulty to avoid such burnout?
Can you re-raise it or no?
I don't know.
So there's the problem. So some of the best level design, honestly, just play it till you're burnt out. That'd be what I'd say.
Sure.
Because you don't have time to finish it anyway. And the end is not the best part of the game. In fact, I'd say the last 2 chapters are the worst part of the game. Very trial and error sections with these traps, really lame boss fights, both the final boss and the leading up to that. The final kind of kill room is nowhere near as interesting as the other kill rooms in the game. You can tell they were strapped for time. It's not a very good ending. But all that to say, the level design, I mean, I brought it up so many times already. I need to touch on this before we leave this game. The level design is incredible. The first village, there's lots of little places to hide and lines of sight you can take advantage of. As you progress through the village, lots of traps that you can set up, and you can let out certain enemies strategically. You can move through the village intentionally. If you're smart, you don't even have to fight everything, I don't think. You can set...
Well, you definitely don't have to fight anything. Like in the first village, you can get to the door.
I meant the one with the chainsaw guy, when you get to the chainsaw guy. I think you do have to fight the chainsaw
in the village.
Yeah, you have to take his chainsaw. But I don't know if you have to fight all the enemies, though.
No, if you open the door, everything's just gone.
Got it, okay. Yeah, it's...
like you won the encounter just by opening the door. You do have to take out the guy that's shooting you from up there.
Yeah. So there's lots of stuff happening, and there's lots of ways you can move through the level. You can set your own traps with the crossbow. Great touch. I love the crossbow. I think it's the best part of this game. You can... the rooms start getting more dense and claustrophobic, but the traps get more dense as well, and you can really... Like, you can't just pull them off when you feel like it. Like, you really have to hope you have enough stamina to pull off your plan so that you're not wasting ammo. It's precious.
But does it take stamina to pull a trap?
No, but, like, you have to... if that pass toward the trap doesn't work, you'll have to get back down and run back up to try to lead the zombies in a way that will, kill 4 instead of 2 or something, And again, the matches are my favorite mechanic in the whole game. Just, intentionally lighting them. I found myself being really creative in this game, and in a way.
And the reason, by the way, you have to light them on fire is because the zombies will get back up, even if their head is exploded, right?
I think a crit will end them, but like the heads don't explode from shooting the head. I think it's only when you get a critical hit with
which is 1%, and then you upgrade the skill once, and it becomes 10%.
Yeah, it's a great upgrade.
You must upgrade all crits immediately.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I did in Evil Within 2. You need crit. You need crit.
I didn't even know until like towards the end of my playthrough. I noticed in Evil Within 2, Evil Within 1, it's 0% to 10%, but it goes from 1% to, I believe, 20% in Evil Within 2.
Yeah,
and I was like, what? I've been playing this whole time without this?
Yeah, it's a game changer. I had my pistol critical all the way up by the end of the game. I was like, let's just get this done, boys and girls. So what's some other stuff I have here? Like you said, the sense of ick is what I put. Like the sense of ick.
Yes.
Like it's
very good. It's like... Yeah, it reminds me, obviously, of Resident Evil.
Sure, of course.
That's what it's going for. But I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't know if it's good. But watching Silent Hill, that the original Silent Hill movie, I've seen so many times as a kid.
It is so bad.
Yeah, but I remember it feeling so disgusting.
That's fair.
And it gives me those feelings. Those icky, moist feelings.
Last thing I have here is that it's for both good and ill. There's a lot more variety sequence to sequence in Evil Within 1. They're trying a lot more stuff. Evil Within 2 is basically, is it open or is it not? Like that's the only question.
But it's the same loop the whole time.
Yeah. Evil Within 2, there's literally like a underwater zombie chase sequence where you have to wade through water multiple times. Every time you go in the water, this cuts to the camera of the shark zombie like chasing you. It's frustrating sometimes, but like it's like they just throw it away when they're done, you know? Like it's for me, it doesn't help the poor pacing, but it definitely helps me remain engaged and just again doing more interesting stuff, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty dang cool. Yeah. I want to go back and finish it. And I just looked. It is, I think, 15 and a half hours for Evil Within 1, something like 13 hours for Evil Within 2, and then 11 hours for Ghostwire Tokyo.
Oh, hey.
So honestly...
So the next game will be 7 hours.
Yeah.
I'm down. Dude, no questions
an even
here.
Bigger world to explore. Exactly. Yeah, I do wonder if, what sort of studio they want to be. Again, I don't think... A studio is not required to make any one sort of game. I get that. And it's not totally fair for us to think that Evil Within 1 is who Tango Works is. But I wonder, because they have moved away, so far away from the filth of Evil Within 1. I wonder if they just, they did that and don't like being in that space. Because... neither Evil Within 2 or I'm just thinking about the people. It must be gross to do that for 3 years.
Yeah.
I wonder if they just don't want to do that.
That's an interesting point.
There's a very clear sterilization of their games from 1 to 3. So yeah, I'm just wondering if that's just sort of something they don't want to do. So it's not fair to expect that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I didn't think about that. That's a good analysis. Oh, you should ask them. Do you hate Ick?
Yo, where's the filth?
Yeah. Where's the filth? Oh, that's amazing. I don't have anything else to say about these games.
Did you play the DLC? Or do you want to play the DLC for Evil Within 1?
I watched a playthrough of it. It did not look like my cup of tea.
Okay.
But it was interesting.
Are you going to play, speaking of DLC, the DLC for Resident Evil 8?
Of course. Don't even ask. In fact, I'll probably just replay Resident Evil 8 along with it because that's a great game.
Yep, I do love Resident Evil 8.
I
love it.
You know what? It's hard for me to say this. No, it's not. I think it's my second favorite Resident Evil game.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy second for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good ones. I will say, I have never finished Resident Evil 4. I've started it like 4 times. But my wife has encouraged me to, as she puts it, you can only play it on Wii. And so I purchased the Wii version and will be playing it probably very shortly.
Awesome. Are you going to play it again next year?
Resident Evil 4? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's February it comes out.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course you will. She's here.
Yeah, of course
you're going to play it.
Like, that's...
a little bit of a tangent here. First of all, my favorite is also Resident Evil 2.
Of course.
It's just a perfect game.
So good.
Perfect game through and through. We have not played Resident Evil 3, which...
Apparently people don't like primarily because it's just more of the same. And so I'm like, all in. I'm like, let's do this. Like,
is it more, but also better? Like, we've talked about this to death. People think BioShock is better because it's more important. But... though I have not played BioShock 2, you have played BioShock 2.
I prefer it for sure.
Say it's a way better game.
Yeah.
For many reasons. But I wonder if that's what it is. This was such a big deal when it came out, Resident Evil 2 Remake, that they did it again with 3. And just because they did it better, they're sort of disregarding that because this was the first.
I think that from what I understand, even with that, None of the environments quite live up to the two main environments in 2.
Okay.
And Nemesis doesn't work as well as like Mr. X and other stuff.
Oh.
I've heard that those are because
yeah,
of the
those
way
are fair criticisms.
The way they implement him. Even so, I'm in. Like I love Resident Evil 2. I've beaten that game 3 times.
7,
which is rare for me.
So with the caveat of the house in 7, the first third of that game, I love it so much. So if I could just fit that neatly into like, kind of second place, but not quite, I would do that.
That's awesome.
But in terms of the full game, 8 is just a gem all the way through.
Yeah.
And then, sort of focusing on the different genres of horror is really fun. And then just taking the concept of the house in the first game and doing that to such an incredible degree, it's amazing, dude. I love Resident Evil 8 so much.
It's so good, man.
I can't wait to. I think it's out on like the 10th or the 11th, the gold edition, which will include all the DLC. So yeah, I definitely want to play that. If it's short enough, maybe I'll fit it in for this month, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll be playing it, so.
Yeah, it's awesome. Anyhow, that was just a little thought I had about Tango Works. Their games are pretty good. Evil Within 2, I think, is their most interesting thing, but Evil Within 1, though I have not finished it, I understand that.
Yeah, I will be recommending Evil Within 2 to quite a few folks.
Yes, I agree.
I have one right, Manny. I'm looking at you, man. I'm going to send this game to you as soon as possible.
Who?
My friend Manny. He will love it.
Will you recommend it in first or third person?
Based on him, third.
Okay.
Based on him, third.
Okay. I think it works so well in
I'm
first
sure
person.
it does, and there are people I would recommend it to in first person.
Yeah.
But
I'd recommend Evil Within 2 to a lot of people. Ghostwire to all of the people and more. I think Ghostwire is pretty much for everybody. It's just
very accessible.
Very accessible, exactly.
Par for the course.
Evil Within 2, a little less accessible, but in terms of traditional Japanese survival horror, you don't get much more accessible than Evil Within 2, while still remaining true enough to its roots. And then Evil Within 1 is trying to do something interesting with the genre, and fails at some points, succeeds in others, but is interesting throughout. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we could touch on all of those. We'll be back next week with Zach. What are we going to be back next week with?
I don't know. Tell me, Tyler.
Dark Soul, Dead Space 2.
Yes, I am.
You have had much more time than me. You're already about halfway through it, I think.
Yeah. I
have played it 1.5 times, I believe. I cannot wait for you to finish it. So there's one of the best set pieces, two of the best set pieces in all of video games towards the end of that game. However, the very end, like the seconds before fade to black, I have never laughed so much in a video game. It is for the lovers of Dead Space. And it just works so well. And I'm excited to see that again. Hopefully I'll be able to finish it.
It has its difficult moments too, which I'm enjoying too.
Yeah. I also really like the sort of, the moments with the occult. I really like all that.
Yeah, they do a good job. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it next week. Folks, thank you for joining us. Do stay tuned for more horror games throughout the month. Please don't forget to share what you love with who you love, and come join the community. Talk about all your favorites on Discord. Link will be in the description. We'll see you next week.